thoughts, opinions, and general overall shades thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. That's right. It is Thursday, April 17th. Today is a National Crawfish Day. Today, you guys.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not a fan of crawfish. Never have been. It's way too much work to eat those things.
You like to suck.
So they call you craw daddy, Jason.
Stop it. Stop.
That's crawl daddy.
You know, but here's one thing I can't. You guys are funny. You guys are funny. It's also National High Five Day. Shout out to High Fives.
High five?
Yes. Yeah. And we're not talking about the boys band.
Too.
I'll tell you that much.
Talking about the what?
I said we're not talking about the boys band.
There's a boys band called High Five.
I think there was.
I know this. Please tell me more.
I'm pretty sure there was back in the day.
To prove it.
Mm-hmm.
CDs.
Here you go. This is for you. This is for you.
Nuts.
Yeah, this is for you, Rico. It's National Cheese Ball Day. Mm-hmm. Yeah. See, exactly.
I like it. I like it. I like it. I like it.
It's also National Haiku Poetry Day today.
Did you prepare a haiku for us today, Jason?
I did not. I did not. But
been affected by tariffs too because they're Japanese.
Oh, stop! They were just negotiating yesterday with the boss. What are you talking about?
Negotiating. Trump put his knee pads on, is begging everybody to to save his face.
Easy there. It's also National Ellis Island Family History Day today.
All except for black people.
Stop it.
I'm on fire today, man. Ellis Island is right here.
That's what I'm saying, bro. You're right there.
Oh, right here, bro. Right here.
Yeah.
The facts don't lie, despite what Trump is trying to erase.
Oh, God. Here we go. Speaking of, you know what I'm saying? It's also, Rico, you're going to love this too. It's also Get to Know Your Customers Day today.
Yeah. KYC. Custies.
Well. Thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms. And we are kicking this off with the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte. The one is out there in the backdoor daddy in New York, rolling around in his all-black caddy. It is the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte.
Yeah, Jason. I am my last day here in New York, and I'm coffeeed up and ready to roll.
Get it.
So I appreciate that. And going to talk about this economy today and the effects of Donald Trump's nonsensical tariff war waged on every country in the world except for Russia and North Korea. Any response on that, Jason?
What?
But the effects are beginning to show from both historical trade adversaries and allies alike. Surprise, surprise, everybody outside of the U.S. is taking the logical route in response to Trump's emotion and following the numbers with where they want to place their economy and where they'll be moving to next. The Green Market Report's Adam Jackson reported yesterday that a new Abacus data poll showed that 64% of Canadians view the legal cannabis industry as a vital part of the country's economic future and support government action to help expand the legal cannabis industry. Support for the industry expansion is strongest among young adults with 73%, but even 57% of senior citizens agree in the country due to our north. The poll was conducted in early April 2025, commissioned by Organigram Global, and it highlights a growing public recognition of cannabis as a key economic driver, with the industry contributing $7.4 billion to Canada's GDP in 2024, more than brewing and forestry combined. Canadians increasingly see cannabis as a resilient, homegrown industry that can provide jobs, innovation, and economic security, especially amid global uncertainty and rising trade tensions with the U.S. under President Trump. Since legalization in 2018, cannabis has added over $43 billion to Canada's GDP and supports 80,000 jobs. Organigram CEO Beena Goldenberg urged politicians to remove barriers and back cannabis as homegrown growth sector for the country's upcoming federal election. Nearly 90% of respondents agreed that Canada should see new ways to grow the economy and seize emerging opportunities. Economy. I'm not sure that real numbers will really sway our government and its decisions more than the emotion is right now. But our numbers far outpace all of this Canadian stuff. And I think it is, if you want to take the logical route, I know that's kind of a lesson in futility these days, but if you want to take the logical route, go with the numbers. And we should be doing the same thing here. Take the economic route and push that toward to Trump's regime and say, like, oh, it makes sense to expand cannabis and to support it federally. The support is on the ground too. We need to be doing the same. I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street for High at 9 News.
Well, Rico, shout out to Canada and our, just as Brian Dombrowski said in the chat, our upcoming 51st state. And you know what I wonder, Rico? I wonder if when Canada becomes our 51st state, if that will change our cannabis policy because they have federal legalization there.
I'm not going to take the bait on that one. Talk about the 51st state because they don't want to be the 51st state, and they have actually rallied, unlike America, which has become even more divided. They've rallied around whoever their next leader is, and they want to stay on message here. And both the right wing and the left wing there are rejecting calls for a 51st state. So
I don't know about
not taking that bait, Jason.
That's not what I've been seeing, bro. This is not what I have been seeing at all lately. But
maybe if you get off Twitter, you'll see some different shit.
We do follow different algorithms. I'll say that much. I will say that much. Dale, what do you have to
move to a different frequency?
I'm on the highest frequency, bro.
I don't know about that. Pretty low.
What do you guys say?
I don't know how that's supposed to happen. I mean, that may be a wish and a hope, but I don't know how that's supposed to legally happen.
Complete ignorance. Come on, that's not even
can you elaborate on that, Dale?
Stupidest thing.
Yeah. Well, internationally, how are we supposed to effectuate taking a sovereign country and making it a state of the United States? How is that supposed to happen?
It's all the art of the deal, Dale.
Bull fucking shit. No, it's not. You've got to have some way to force that to happen because they don't want it to happen. So what are you going to do? They tell you, go fuck yourself. Now what?
They can do that, and just it's the same thing with all of the all of the money that we give to them and all the security that we give to them. You know what I mean? We don't have to do that either.
Yeah, well, that's true. Their products can be sold without tariffs to China and other places like that. And what happens is you just screw your own pooch when you keep pushing these goddamn tariffs like this.
The world will move on without us. They don't need the shit that we got here. The world will move on without us.
I don't know. Canada is not known for exporting. I mean, they have a couple things that they export. It's not a lot that they export.
They grow wheat. They have lumber.
They export weed. That is one thing that they do export. A lot of boof weed.
Wheat.
That's true.
Wheat.
Not yeah.
You know, like
Wheat, Jason.
Yeah,
with
but
the T.
they do export a lot of weed too. Weed and wheat, both of them.
Anyway, and this is the Dale. This is why I didn't take the bait on this, because you're not going to get any kind of answers from Jason. What I'd like to return to is the logical direction that Canada is taking here, and they are going to expand their cannabis program and supporting that because they recognize that the numbers are leading their GDP. Right now, and these numbers aren't even half of what America produces, and we should be doing the same.
Mm-hmm.
Just follow the numbers. Like take the politics out of all of this, and it makes fucking economic sense to support something that is feeding your federal coffers right now, especially when you're trying to take away from other sources of revenue. As the Trump administration is doing. It can be a no-brainer, but there's not many brains in the Oval Office right now anyways.
Stop it. Stop it. Jenny Beth, you have anything you want to throw in on this, Jenny Beth?
No.
No? Okay. And I do want to...
don't like logical conversations.
Mm-hmm.
You guys don't like that.
Stop it. This is totally illogical, bro. You're totally gaslighting the world right now. But I do want to welcome... What's that deal?
Making Canada the 51st state ain't gaslighting all of us.
No way. It's inevitable.
Hey, my man Nate is in the building. Bel Costa, Costa is in the building.
Yeah, we want to welcome Nate Winokur.
You have a very logical mind, my brother.
This has actually been the best laugh I've had. This has been the best laugh I've had in the last week, all things considered. Which probably brings us a little bit to what's going on even today. But no, this has been great. This has been hilarious. I did do a little bit of coverage too on tariff and supply chain. And if we wanted to draw an analog, we can look at the last time we had supply chain interruption of any form, which was during COVID. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't fun. It was not fun in this industry, not by the least. And Nate, for the comparisons. Yeah, brother?
Nate, do you remember what everyone was told back then during that time?
Let him finish. And then
I remember hearing a lot back then. Mm-hmm. But real quick, with regards to everything and that analog that we can draw, things were not fun. And in light of what we're hearing in this conversation, we share some of those same supply chains, especially from overseas, that Canada does. Mm-hmm. And we're about to see really quick if there's a comparison that can be drawn, or what that comparison will be between the ability that they have to import all of those things that they need to do their job, and all the grow media and all of that fun stuff, compared to what we in the US might be able to see. Will prices be going up? Will we actually have to divert and import things from Canada when we find ourselves in starvation situations? Because these are all real things that could be potentially happening. It'll change the whole flux of things. But what if Canada end up becoming this trade partner in a whole different way, just based completely out of starvation and the need to just keep things moving? Because in our side, we might see U.S. cannabis, or even California cannabis, is becoming like one of those rare things you almost have to go to that place in order to experience. Well, if you guys been to California, you can't afford to get it imported out here, but their weed is amazing. You got to go check it out. Things are gonna change so much. Is my only point there, and we have no idea collectively what we're about to see. I do think it's interesting, and to hear all these different takes in one place, honestly, as a group therapy thing, this is exactly what I need right now. Mm-hmm. So thank you guys. That's perfect. Thank you for
joining us, my brother. Good to see you.
Of course, man. It's good to see you again too, brother.
Yes. Well, on that happy little note, I guess we're going to roll into our first commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Oh, man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, my left one, But I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility. So you know you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where I'm even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Tested. It's not a name, it's a promise.
Almost.
They got their head up their
Yes,
ass.
and we are back, you guys.
Up next, y'all know who it is. It's the highest Republican known for smoking the best weed in the world and spinning every story on its lips like a backup dancer for En Vogue back in the 90s.
Yeah, shout out to
The man who
breakdancing.
knows no truth. The man who knows no truth unless it ends with social. Jason Beck.
Oh, yes. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Rico. Happy Thursday, everybody. Happy Thursday, man. You know, the last time I checked, it was New Hampshire. It was, they have on their license plates, live free or die. And I don't understand what is going on up there because they got a bunch of prohibitionists going on up there because New Hampshire Senate Committee recommends killing the adult use legalization bill, you guys. That's right. The New Hampshire Senate lawmakers voted 3-2 in committee on April 15th to reject a bipartisan House-passed bill that would legalize adult use cannabis possession. The 3-2 vote was to adopt a independent to legislature motion, meaning the committee recommended that the full Senate chamber kill the bill. The legislation, House Bill 198, more simply aims to allow those 21 years and older to possess 2 ounces of cannabis, 10 grams of concentrate, or 2,000 milligrams of THC. After House and Senate lawmakers collided last legislative session over a broader legalization bill that would have also established a commercial marketplace for licensed cultivation and sales. But more specifically, 2024 lawmakers didn't see eye to eye on the Senate state-run franchise model for dispensaries. And the 2 chambers couldn't resolve their differences in a conference committee, and this left New Hampshire as the lone state in New England absent from adult use legalization, you guys. Hoping to avoid another tug of war between legislative chambers, Representative Jared Sullivan, Democrat from Bethlehem, who supports HB 198, testified in favor of his more tailored legislation before the Senate Judiciary Committee on Tuesday. And the quote says, "As most of you on this committee are well aware, this is sort of the perennial issue in the state. How to legalize marijuana," he said. "A lot of the disagreements are generally on how to sell it. This bill doesn't touch that," he says. Sullivan pointed out that HB 198 comes a year after 58% of New Hampshireans, after the New Hampshire senators voted in favor of legalizing adult use cannabis last session amid the cross-chamber disagreement on the specifics. And in a quote, "When it gets tripped up on just selling it, I feel like this is a good way to take the language from last year. This is a very similar to the bill that was passed from the Senate last year," Sullivan said. And an additional quote says, "My goal here is to stop arresting people. It is 2025. This is something that has been legalized in nearly half of the states in the country," he says. In 2023, New Hampshire law enforcement officials arrested 694 people for cannabis possession, according to data provided from the state's Uniform Crime Report to the FBI's National Incident-Based Reporting System. And while HB 198 would legalize possession for adults 21 and older, the legislation would prohibit public consumption, impaired driving, transferring cannabis to minors, and other common-sense provisions to safeguard public health. In addition, home cultivation would remain illegal, so no home grow. And Karen O'Keefe, the director of state policies at the nonprofit Marijuana Policy Project, called HB 198, in quotes, "very modest bill that would treat adults like grown-ups." She urged the Senate committee members to support the bill And in both this country and in New Hampshire, we value liberty, we value freedom, and within reason, we let adults make their own decisions to do things that might have some risks, she said. You're not banning big gulps. You're not banning being sedentary or playing football or rock climbing. And you're not banning alcohol either, she says. In fact, the state itself sells alcohol, and it is wrong to ban a safer substance than alcohol, she says. O'Keefe also pointed to a June 2024 survey in which pollsters at the University of Hampshire found that 65% of Granite Staters support adult use legalization, while 19% oppose it, and the remaining percentage remains neutral. Sue Homba, a former Republican Senate representative in New Hampshire, who now chairs the state chapter of prohibitionist group Smart Approaches to Marijuana, better known as Project SAM, testified in opposition to the bill and, in quote, says, all of the arguments that people use to legalize usually are not based in facts, and they are not based in the data, she said. Marijuana is a federally illegal Schedule I drug, and nothing has changed, she says. Before the committee members commenced the debate, Senate Judiciary Chairman Bill Gannon, Republican from Sandown, made the independent to legislature motion to reject the bill. In a question, why, says Senator Deborah Alstetter, Democrat from Stratham, asked, that was fast. Gannon turned to the mic over to the vice chairman, Daryl Abras, Republican from Salem, and in a quote says, all I can hear people talk about is an injustice that I personally feel could have been resolved with prior legislation, Abba said. But this is going to be just an open policy that just allows it to be everywhere, he says. There's no guardrails of any type to the retail market, yet it's set up that way, he says. While Sullivan explained earlier in the hearing that Granite Staters arrested with small amounts of cannabis face misdemeanors and jail time that create employment barriers, he failed to mention the barriers to housing, higher education, and other opportunities associated with being productive members of society. The bill's sponsor also filed a motion that black Granite Staters are 4.1 times more likely than white people to be arrested for cannabis despite similar usage rates, according to the American Civil Liberties Union. Abbas, who was one of 5 Senate Republicans who supported last year's bill to legalize adult use cannabis with a regulated marketplace of state-run dispensaries, said during this week's committee hearing that he had concerns about legalizing cannabis possession without anywhere for state residents to legally purchase it. In a quote, they say, this is not the way to go about it. I know Vermont did this. I didn't think that was a great plan for Vermont because that's putting the horse before the cart, he said. Later, Abbas incorrectly asserted that Granite Staters could buy cannabis off a street corner under HB 198, and the bill's language explicitly states that adults 21 and older could not transfer cannabis without remuneration under the proposal. And in additional quote, they say, you can buy 2 ounces off someone on the street and you could possess that, and it's legal, Abba said. It's not tested. Who knows what's in that? There's a black market issue either way, even with the legitimate adult use policy. But this, with all the testing and all those other safeguards that go into it, I think this is not the way to go, he says. Senator Tara Reardon, a Democrat from Concord, said she didn't get hung up on the words injustice, and in a quote says, what I did hear that really rang a bell for me was it's a modest bill and that we're going to treat people like grown-ups, she said. I think it's probably reality that there's a large number of adults who smoke marijuana now and they can get it from every state surrounding us and bring it home. Instead of legalizing personal amounts for cannabis, Reardon said her colleagues on the other side of the aisle are choosing to tie up New Hampshire's court systems, law enforcement agencies, and people's lives, you guys. Well, it sounds like we got some common sensors up there in New Hampshire, and we got some active prohibitionists, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
I just want to know if New Hampshireans is the right term, Jason. I'm not sure.
They're called Granite Staters.
There it is. There it is. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they're trying to kill this bill, so I guess that's the live free or die portion.
That's the die part for sure.
That's definitely the die part. Yeah, you know, when they're surrounded by so many options for their constituents to just go right out of state and grab some products and bring it right back in.
Yeah, and it's not like
and take over that little bit of the industry that they have there.
Exactly.
So.
And it's not like New Hampshire is that big of a state. It's like it's not that hard to drive to any one of those other states from anywhere you live in New Hampshire.
Well, I mean, wasn't it New Hampshire that it's like their liquor is cheaper, and it's like so maybe
Yeah, their liquor is cheaper.
We'll do the weed. You guys bring the booze.
Yep,
you know
my cousins.
Like that kind of party.
Yeah, my cousins in Vermont, they drive to New Hampshire specifically because it's cheaper there.
Shout out to your cousins in Vermont and their syrup.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, their syrup.
Jason from the story says 65% of New Hampshire residents support adult use legislation, and it also said that Senators Bill Gannon and Vice Chair Daryl Abbas, both Republicans, opposed the bill, citing concerns about public safety. Would you list them as "quote unquote" rhinos, as you say?
I don't know enough about them to list them as rhinos, but I will list them as prohibitionists. And I do think that they need to get some common sense reality policies in place. And I think that their reasoning for being opposed to this bill is kind of asinine.
I think it's laughable. I think it's laughable that at this day and age, it's still being suggested that a means of controlling something is by banning it. Yeah. Like, really? Like, I mean, there are literally lifetimes that have flared into existence and died since that policy has been tried and failed. So the fact that 30 years later, we're still hearing this, think of the children level bullshit is just almost laughable. Like, I mean, is there any better way to show that somebody is like insanely out of touch than by trying to express that these are the current concerns?
Wait till we.
No, that's a good point, Nate. Yeah. Oh my God. Yes, indeed. No, I think it's a great point, and I think what we're seeing more and more with these states that are on the brink, and the people in these states are saying that they want legalization. Every single one of them looks like the Republican Party has been fully infiltrated by Project Sam. Project Sam is noted in every single one of these stories from the Republicans either teaming up with them. Like this one was their name. What was her last name?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to give me a second, bro. Let me look. I'll tell you. Try to find her name. I'm not sure, but she was definitely Project Sam. She even had a funny voice.
She has. Yeah. What's that?
She even had a funny voice.
Yeah, it's like Umola, or whatever, Sue Umola, former Republican state representative, who now chairs the state chapter of prohibitionist group Smart Approaches for Marijuana. So, what's up with your party, man? What's up with your party?
Yeah,
your party seems to be fully aligned with these extremists.
I wouldn't say that at all, and I find it interesting how you always try to frame it in that way, but I don't believe that, because the reality is that Project Sam has been controlling Democrats far longer than they've been controlling Republicans.
Do you have some stats to support that, Jason?
Yeah, Obama.
No, you don't. You just know, just emotion. You got emotion. Give me some.
I just did. That was 8 years of controlling Democrats under Obama.
You still bringing up Obama? When was Obama in office, Jason? When was he in office last? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Silence.
Stop it. You're so ridiculous.
Obama's fault.
Jason doesn't mean it's true.
It is true.
Let's just say it again.
It's true. He was an Obama advisor. Exactly. What do you got to say, Jenny Beth?
Nothing. I hate this whole bullshit that you guys do every morning. I love all liberal tears, but Rico's are my favorite.
I don't cry my own tears no more. Those wells run dry a long time ago.
And shout out to Liberal Tears. You can, if you want to order some Liberal Tears yourself, you can go over into the description of this video and use that link to get some yourself. They have Patriot Peach. It tastes amazing. No sugar, high energy, all day, every day.
Oh, I love Isaac Cruz in the comments paying attention because he says he was consulting Biden 4 months ago.
Exactly. He was doing that too. Exactly right.
Nobody was consulting Biden 4 months ago.
He was an advisor.
But it doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Jesus took the wheel with Biden a long time ago.
Stop it. You're funny, Rico.
Nobody was advising Joe Biden but God himself.
You have anything you want to throw in on this, Stone Slade?
No, sir.
No.
No.
Okay.
I can't wait to get the Texas take from Stone Slade.
Yeah, exactly.
The Texas take was no, sir.
The Texas take and Texas tea.
You have any other final thoughts on this, Dale, before we move on?
It's just amazing that people continue to look for stupid reasons to not pass sensible laws when the black market's eating their lunch. And that's the reality. And how much more can you say? We have the same problem here in California. Have their head so far up their ass, they don't want to accept that 2/3 of the money being made off marijuana in California is in the black market. Yet they continue to do stupid shit to the legal market. And I mean, and they're Democrats, and I'm a Democrat, and I'm very critical of their stupidity here. The people want this. Why can't the people have what they want? Because if you don't give it to them legally, they can walk around the corner and buy it from their favorite guy with weed in his pocket.
They could be buying it from Hunter.
Who's into coke?
Hey, too.
I mean, Hunter.
Saltiest of all bath salts. Bath salts.
Hunter will take checks too, but nonetheless, rolling right on in to Mr. Dale Schafer. Dale has been an attorney since the Reagan administration. He has represented physicians, hospitals, insurance companies, cops, corrections officers, and for the last 25 years, he specialized in cannabis law. He served a 5-year federal prison sentence for helping medical marijuana patients and managed to save his law license. He's blunt. He doesn't smoke them because they're ratchet, and he's honest and unconcerned with your opinions, public opinions, and everyone else's opinion, and will show you how to defy gravity by pissing up a rope. It is none other than your favorite T.O. Loco yourself, and you can find him now at his own law office at the law office of Dale Schafer. It is attorney at law, Mr. Dale Schafer.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. As you can tell, we're having our usual headbutting session over Democrats versus Republicans and people acting stupid. My story this morning comes out of Marijuana Moment. The headline is CBD helped relieve chronic pain in more than 98% of patients. Newly published study finds. This is from Ben Adlin yesterday. And when I read this, it's another one of those, well, no shit, Sherlock. We understand this. And when Molly and I first started doing recommendations in 99, one of the first things we found is people were telling us that they have access to weed. They stopped taking as many prescriptions as they were before, especially pain medication, but also antidepressants, anti-anxiety meds, things like that. So it was no surprise. We tried to report those findings a long time ago, and as people came back every year, it was just reinforced. Now, what this new study, the flaw in it is that was, I think it was online or somebody asked a couple questions at a doctor's office. This is not the way to do a study where you're going to get credibility from it. I think everybody in the industry understands that if you have chronic pain, you have access to especially CBD. I like the entourage effect. So if you have the full spectrum, you get decent pain relief. Okay? But what we really need now, since CBD is legal, Farm Bill made it legal, the FDA has approved Epidiolex, which is CBD, phyto CBD. We should now be able to do studies, and they should be double blinded so that you get rid of the placebo effect. That's the big problem that we always have in medicine, is that if people self-report something helps them, then is it because they knew what to expect? Somebody primed them what to expect? So what we need is double-blind studies here. And what this article delves into a little bit is the multi-layered effect of pain and pain management inside the body. We've traditionally used opium and the derivatives of opium to treat pain, and there are receptors, there's endogenous opiates, and it seems that cannabis works with some of these same receptor systems. There are multitudes of layers of inflammatory agents and anti-inflammatory agents, and they're guessing right now as to how cannabis, and particularly CBD, cannabigerol, and cannabichromine, okay? These are three of the primary agents that people report pain relief from. THC makes you high, so I think that's mixed into somehow. To target CBD, CBG, and CBC and do some specific studies and try to figure out how this leads to an anti-inflammatory effect, how it stimulates the endogenous opioid receptors, I think we need targeted studies. Because everyone I've ever talked to who has chronic pain self-reports that using cannabis helps. Okay? We need better information so that in medical school they can begin teaching upcoming physicians how this works, what the dosages are, how to titrate people, and that people who are already licensed can get a better understanding of how to use the components of cannabis to try and achieve pain relief for people who may have addiction issues, or you may want to avoid addiction issues. That's one of the main proponents of cannabis, is that the addiction properties are so much less than the problems we have with opioids. And even with things like Tylenol, it's hepatotoxic, okay? The Motrin and the nonsteroidals make you bleed, okay? So there's plenty of problems with the array of pain medications we have right now. I would like to see more targeted research so that we can put cannabis into play for real physicians to prescribe it through prescriptions if necessary, but to be able to guide people in the medical states or even in the recreational states to be able to get the products that are going to work best for them and then follow up and make sure that it works. This is an ongoing problem. I mean, I've been involved in this for, 26 years now, and the patients keep saying the same thing. It's about time the medical establishment, the pharmaceutical industry, and the federal government got their head out of their ass and promoted this. So I'm going to throw this back at you all. What do you think, and what's your comments?
Well, I think you made a very good point at the end of that, and that was that proper follow-up from the doctors. I think a lot of what we've done a disservice to the industry with as a medicinal industry is, like you watched in Florida, all these pill mill doctors have turned into, now they're writing cannabis scripts, right? But they're doing it as a revenue generation source and not truly as a patient care personnel. So I think that there needs to be, if you're truly treating a patient for something, you don't just give them, if they're depressed, you don't just give them Wellbutrin and say, all right, see you never. There's follow-up that needs to happen. Are we needing to adjust dosage? What are you seeing? What's going on? And so I think we need to continue to look at medical cannabis like that, and unscrupulous physicians who are just using this as essentially the pill mill format, which is like turn it for dollars, go online, get your prescription for your little fake backache and keep it pushing, are partially to blame for why more traditional practitioners aren't seeing this for its medicinal purposes and for the value that it actually has in the lives of the patients that we're treating. So,
go ahead.
If I may add to what you guys are saying right there, I think there's a huge lack of understanding amongst the community, both the consuming cannabis, cannabis consuming community, and the medical community alike, as to the impacts of the endocannabinoid system. There are things that happen to us in day-to-day lives, or to our kids, or to us once upon a time, where we say hormones, and we understand it's an implication of the hormone system or another chemical system within our bodies. It's not getting into all of them. And the endocannabinoid system could be said to be exactly as important as those. Now, the lack of understanding is weird because it's Swiss cheese. We all understand certain things about our endocannabinoid system. We all understand that our bodies interact with phytocannabinoids from cannabis through the endocannabinoid system. But there's all sorts of other funky little things in our knowledge that have yet to be connected. For instance, one of those common chemicals you see popping up whenever you study cannabis chemistry is beta-caryophyllene. It's a terpene, right? You see that all the time. It's extremely common. In fact, in terpene tests, I see it come up in 999 out of 1,000 strains. So it's to be said that this is insanely common. Now, one of the interesting things we can say about beta-caryophyllene is it's one of those few naturally occurring chemicals that isn't in itself a cannabinoid, but that has a binding affinity with your endocannabinoid system. And not only does this binding affinity lead to things like beta-caryophyllene being associated with anti-inflammatory effects, Dale, you were mentioning, benefits of those a moment ago, but not only having some target to anti-inflammatory effects, but the binding in itself through the endocannabinoid system has been understood and explored by other industries. Have you ever seen like a black pepper or a pepper rub or a pepper balm for your skin? as absolutely, in all likelihood, based on what little understanding we have of those pathways, just basically tapping into your endocannabinoid system in order to achieve at least some of its effects. Now, the understanding of these things, that sounds completely feasible, but the notion that your endocannabinoid system is literally attached to making you feel better seems to be overlooked time and time again. And my short point of evidence to complete this idea would be simply look at how much there's a focus of THC in our market now instead of alternative cannabinoids. As soon as really profit got dropped into the whole situation and thin profit margins became a thing, alternative cannabinoids essentially got left by the wayside in favor of what things could be branded and marked up the best. And in some ways it's sad, in other ways it's telling, but overall it's a very strong indication of your point, Dale. Where is this information going to come from? And if not from the highest levels of the educated community, than whom? I mean, I've tried to be an educator and do my best, but I'm one voice amongst so much bad information, disinformation that's out there. Obviously all of us try to be the voices of reason too, but without having something cohesive like the medical community and that consensus, what are we really left with? And the unfortunate answer is this,
Well, it's going to take somebody outside the traditional medical system, because at this point, physicians have lost their testicles. They don't want to do anything that goes against what the federal government's telling them. And they're telling them, don't prescribe opioids, and marijuana is verboten. Okay? Even in states where it's legal, doctors are afraid. I mean, my ex had some steel stones on her. She wasn't afraid to spit in anybody's eye. But that's not how you get things accomplished. And they've already done the phase 1 and phase 2 testing for CBD. So it's not like you have to go back and reinvent the wheel. We need to look at the efficacy here. What levels of this, and see if we can figure out how it's working. Because as you said, there's cascades of events that happen inside the body, both to cause inflammation and to relieve inflammation. And arthritis pain is one of the big reasons people use CBD. But if CBG or CBC can be helpful with anti-inflammatory effects, Motrin will burn a hole in your stomach. Non-steroidals do that. Tylenol kills your liver. There's no indication that these minor cannabinoids, let's call them that, have any problems like that. They did see with Epidiolex, there was some increased liver enzyme problems with high levels. I don't think it's near the problem that Tylenol will kill you if you take too much of it. You can't take enough cannabinoids to kill you. So the efficacy and safety of this stuff are already out there. Why it works, I think, is where the medical community needs to be taken. But the pharmaceutical industry wants to be able to patent this shit. So they want to be able to take a molecule that works and then put a little tag on it so they can make it their own and then control the market. And that's where the money's going to be. But that is not where we should stand by and let it happen. We need to scream bloody murder to not let Big Pharma get a hold of this and then try to control it, because we know what they do. They're going to take take this and run with it as patented medicines, and then we're basically screwed.
Yep, they're going to take each little molecule one by one, and sell them all individually. And
what they're trying to do. And that's what GW Pharmaceutical attempted to do with its Epidiolex patent. But then, we also have to remember that was a formulary patent. So it was the aqueous suspension of cannabinoids in 90% or lower concentration. So then you can swing the big industry dick, came in with money and actually came out with a patent, shout out to Tony Vazura, that encompassed that. And I think that's what we have to do to fight back. But we also have to realize there's a lot of money behind that. The pharmaceutical industry is not going to get behind, and there's not going to be any money for big research studies until there's a return on investment. And that return on investment has to be something that can be patented and something that can be IP protected. And until we see that happening, which it may never, it's going to be really difficult to actually get the studies that we need to be released unless we're self-funding from within the industry.
Yeah, and shout out to the companies like Tested that are doing full spectrum CBD products and whatnot. And that those products just came in, and you can also find their website in our description in this video as well.
If we only had a Secretary of Health and Human Services that actually stood up for stuff like this.
Oh, stop it. Shout out to Maha and all the people over there, hard at work over there. That's cute, Rico. You have anything else you want to throw in on this, Rico?
Yeah, it could be solved if you have people who would stand up for shit like this that said they would, and they're just not doing it.
They will. Just they're getting there. They're getting there one thing at a time. One thing at a time.
You know, people die. People die every day because of inaction.
Oh, let's see. We're gonna roll into our next commercial, and we are gonna be right back.
Don't get caught up in
yeah, stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it, and YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.highat9news.com. And if you are in the New York marketplace for legal cannabis, just know that I can help provide you with licensed compliant concentrates to help you smooth out your brand through the supply chain for every which way you may possibly need. And on that, we're going to roll into our final commercial, and we're going to be right back.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. Did you get that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that, they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
Ah, yes, and we are back, you guys. You guys are so funny. We are back.
Oh, yeah, we are. And the next correspondent skipped Easy Street and hit the high road because he ain't never been a fan of the status quo. He's a dope dad and true patriot standing up for cannabis freedom of everybody. ATX and beyond. Mr. Stone Slade.
It's Austin.
Baby.
It's Austin, you guys. It's Austin.
Oh, I almost thought that Jason didn't get offended, but there he was.
You know, he got no self-control. He got no self-control. You know, Snowflake.
You can hear his butt snap like a cigar cutter whenever you see ATX.
Snowflakes melt in that Texas heat.
ATX, calm down, Jason. There's
Austin.
a war happening right now over who gets to sell THC-infused drinks, and it's not being fought in dispensaries or grocery stores. It's happening behind closed doors, at the Capitol, in back rooms, and under the polished smiles of industry reps. And leading the charge, a group called CABA, the Coalition for Adult Beverage Alternatives. Sounds harmless, right? It's not. CABA is backed by companies like Specs, Keef, Tilray, Pomos, and Emergent. Their big plan? To lock up the booming hemp beverage market by forcing all sales through alcohol-only distribution channels. That's right, they want hemp-derived THC drinks treated like booze so that they can run the whole show from warehouse to register. And what about independent hemp companies? Sidelined. And this isn't just some Texas experiment with House Bill 28. It's a national playbook. Like Lucas Gilkey of Hometown Hero put it, they're going behind the scenes and trying to wipe out the entire hemp industry across the country. These folks aren't fighting for consumer safety. They're fighting for market control. They want to thrive. They want to force a thriving, diverse industry into the same tired mold that they already dominate. Farmers markets, gone. Online sales, dead. Your favorite local shop with vetted, clean products? Nope. Unless they have a liquor license or deal with booze distributors, they're out. Now, to make all this sound palatable, they rolled it all up in a feel-good language about protecting minors and public health. And to be clear, everyone agrees kids shouldn't be guzzling THC, but that's not even the debate. Texas Governor Greg Abbott chimed in saying, Both the House and the Senate, they can agree on a core principle, and that's that children, minors, should not have access to high-level THC. But the best part of what he said is that he said they're looking at other strategies for those who aren't minors. Now, the translation, lawmakers know that adult access isn't the issue now, but they're still letting CABA hijack the conversation. Because House Bill 28 doesn't stop at safety. It uses child protection as a Trojan horse to get in to gut the hemp industry and hand the pieces over to big alcohol. It's prohibition with a liquor license. So the question isn't whether hemp products should be safe and restricted to adults. Of course they should. The question is, are we going to let liquor distributors write the rules for an entirely different industry? Because if they do, it won't just be bad policy. It'll be the blueprint for how every new market gets hijacked before it even has a chance to grow. These guys aren't protecting consumers. They're protecting their turf. And if the hemp industry doesn't wake up fast, there won't be much left to protect. I'm Stone Slade for the High at 9 News.
Y'all better quit hollering and trying to get things passed based on, oh, we're going to give you tax money and, oh, regulate us like liquor, and then crying when they do it. Like, we need to realize and look ahead of what the implications of these things that we're asking for might be. Because here it is. And now you're all pissing your pants about it. But regulate us like liquor. We're safer than alcohol. Regulate us like alcohol. Okay. We'll regulate you like alcohol. Don't fucking do that.
Exactly.
Come on, figure it out, guys. Like, this is not how the world works.
Yep. Cannabis should be regulated like a nutraceutical and just leave it alone. Let it be on shelves.
It doesn't have a perfect peg to fit it in like alcohol or tobacco. It needs to have its own. Like, stop treating it like either.
We almost got the pegging. Thanks, Stone.
You beat me to it, Jenny Beth. Cannabis does not like to be pegged.
Well, I mean, it is a female. Just saying.
Please.
Just saying.
Please.
Just saying.
Please.
Stone. Oh, go ahead, Dale, please.
I don't know why people are surprised about this, because even inside our own industry, once people start making money, they want to continue to make more and control things. I mean, we saw it here in California with some of these trade organizations wanting to fight fuller legalization. I call it greed. It's the corporate mentality, and it's not conducive to a broader market. But, you know, when you can lobby the legislature, when you got the kind of money to do that, you tend to get what you want. And that's one of the problems we have in this country. We have too much corporate control of the government, and we're all left holding the bag here.
Yeah, I just, I think this is the wrong pathway. I totally agree with Jenny Beth. Like, be careful trying to regulate it like alcohol, because be careful what you ask for, because you might just get it. You know what I mean? And even in the administration, they've been telling everybody this FAFO a mantra that's been going around. And you know what I'm saying? They definitely are going to FAFO if they keep barking up this tree in that manner.
It's the biggest money maker in Texas is the alcohol. You would think oil. I thought it was oil. It's alcohol. So those are the biggest boys in the state to fuck with.
Interesting.
And the boys working on
oil fields need something to come home to.
Jenny Beth, you are in my mind right now. So the second comment that I was about to have that you just spewed out. But I would like to say that I would like to bookmark this as the third time in 2 weeks that Jason Beck has flip-flopped on his original take that the cabal, this whole liquor cartel is real, and it is against the best interests of folks in the cannabis industry.
I did not flip-flop.
First, when I brought it up, you were like, "Oh, you can't take those liberals saying this is liberal slant from on the ground."
That was a liberal slant.
We've had multiple Texans on the show now saying the exact opposite.
They're all liberal Texans, though, too. Just in all fairness.
That's true.
Just saying. We haven't had any conservative Texans on the show.
Y'all are just so far right, bro. That's what the problem is. There's right and then there's far right, and you guys are like on the edge, teetering over, my friend.
Oh God, stop the cap, Stone Slade. You've been locked away in Austin for far too long. You need to explore outside of the walls of Austin and get into reality.
No, I'm always traveling. Stop the cap.
You know what, Stone? It's not nice for you to talk about Jason teetering. You know he has a short leg.
Yeah, Stone, you trying to pick on the disabled. Always.
Yeah, she just called this man a weeble wobble.
Yeah, it's just, it's just these people always love to pick on the disabled. They as a constant thing.
Be doing this next. Mm-hmm. How long is his leg, Jenny Beth?
Constant.
Everyone. The one he puts a shoe on. I don't know about the other one.
Number 2 or number 3. Mm-hmm. The shoe.
You have anything? You have anything you want to throw in on this, Nate, in regards with this whole beverage debacle going on in Texas? You have anything?
I try to watch, what's going on all around the country. Texas is such a battleground in terms of, what's going on there. It really, like, watching it from afar, I imagine was like watching California like 15, 20 years ago. It's just like, what's going to happen next? Edge of your seat kind of thing. Who's getting raided today?
Yeah, but social media is better now.
I agree. I think that in this very, very, very thin comparison, the two compare, because back then I was a part of the industry and I saw what was happening here in LA. And that's why I can make that comparison alone between what I see on social media today and what I actually see in terms of what I saw back, historically with what we were dealing with. And I see so much commonality and so many things up in the air. I remember even having some of these discussions in California. I mean, it's easy to forget, but 10 years ago, when we were wondering which distribution company with alcohol who was currently battling it out was going to seemingly win all of these contracts. And we saw how everything just complicated, split out, divided, and turned into this hot mess here in California. And I almost see like a parallel between that and what's going on here. Not exactly the same, but it's interesting. And then I don't know how many times I'm going to get this platform, how much you guys are going to like having me around at the end of the day. But let me just say here, in terms of Jason's flip-flops, it's funny, because me, as somebody who came through cannabis from literally dozens and dozens of years ago, and then back then, 90s, the only people who were on your side were liberal types. And, I just kind of attached myself to that idea because it seemed like they were really our only fans. You could go for the people who kind of wanted you around and to progress, or the people who hated your guts. And, I chose the path of least resistance back then. As I came, to grow up more and I learned a little bit more about humanity, I realized that sanity is about the 80% of people in the middle. And maybe sometimes, to listen to what the 10% would say about the other 10% doesn't always like construct down in terms of logic. I think when somebody aligns themselves with one side, which I try personally not to do these days, I think you'll find yourself flip-flopping, because it's impossible to align yourself with one side and logic at the same time, which I think you could say with the 10% margin on either side of things. Now, this is just me and sort of usurping your platform for the last 60 to 120 seconds to make that point. But I do expect flip-flopping when you look at something that's intended to be polarizing. And personally, I can tell you, bless you. Personally, I can tell you that there is, when I see all you guys, everybody here who, for the most part, I've hung out with and gotten to know, you're all sane people. You're all that 80% in the middle, whether you like it or not. That's all I got to say on that particular topic.
Fair.
Even Jason. Jason's a lot more moderate. He's a lot more moderate than he likes the people to think.
Yeah, if I get along with you, you're probably a sane person. And if you're a sane person, you're probably not prescribing to that perfect 10% on one side who's supposed to hate that other perfect 10% on the other side, or imperfect, depending on how you look at it.
I'm just gonna say I don't flip flop, nor do I waver or any of that.
Well, you know what I mean? You can't even wear flip flops, Jason. So
that's part of my whole point, Jenny Beth. That's exactly what I was going into. But what I do is I do know how to slide around, and on that, we're gonna slide into our next commercial, and we are gonna be right back.
Oh man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, I left one, And I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. every batch all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility, so you know you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where I'm even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Tested. It's not a name, it's a promise.
And we are back, you guys. We're back, Rico. You with us? Did you lose your internet, Rico?
I
Okay.
lose my internet. Hold on.
Okay.
I don't have my full setup here. Y'all gotta bear with me here.
Okay, well, just communicate. All of a sudden, we think you're like having a stroke or something.
No, I'm not Mitch McConnell. But
okay, all right, fair enough.
Up next is the cannabis industry's favorite foul mouth from the South. She's the founder of 501c5 just to serve 501c3. What was that?
And 4.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and
boy.
4?
F1C3 and a C4. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and C4. Oh, she's blowing up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's blowing up like C4. Oh, here to break us off with the next story. I don't see her, but I'm just going to assume that she is out on those links with Mr. Rory, destroying marriages again.
Oh,
Jenny
boy.
Beth Dills.
First of all, I've never destroyed any marriage. Except, yeah, never destroyed it. Never destroyed a marriage. That was the other one.
I didn't say it was advertisement.
I would say I was very disappointed in Rory's wife. She looked very cold and bitchy as he was giving a very emotional speech after he won the Masters and hit his career grand slam, which was amazing. But that just might be her Irish resting bitch face. Who knows?
And there it is. Destroying marriages one verb at a time.
He's really blossomed from looking like the Wendy's girl into the man he's become. So I'm very proud of Rory McIlroy.
Look,
what do you got for us today? What do you got for us today, Jenny Beth?
Well, there's a reason why Nate's here. Because the DCC also showed up there. Okay, so California has suspended the license of a major cannabis testing lab, Belcosta Labs, citing a range of serious violations regulators say could endanger public health and safety. According to a letter from the State's Department of Cannabis Control, Belcosta Labs, based in Long Beach, must immediately halt all operations, including testing and transporting cannabis products. The agency accuses the lab of releasing failed product samples for retail sale, some of which later tested positive for aspergillus, a type of mold that can be dangerous when inhaled. Regulators also say the lab significantly inflated THC potency results. In one case, Belcosta reported flower samples with THC levels at 24.5%, but state retests revealed those numbers were actually as low as 14.7%, a 40% difference, far exceeding California's 10% margin of error. Additional violations include failing to report testing results within the required timeframe, mishandling chain of custody documentation, and violating data security protocols by allowing a receptionist access to a lab owner's account on the state's cannabis tracking system. Video footage also showed improper sample collection procedures, and 8 employees were found to lack the minimum educational qualifications required for lab analysts or samplers. Belcosta executives say the lab, which has operated for 8 years and employs 75 people, is being unfairly targeted. In an emergency podcast uploaded to YouTube, company leaders pushed back on the claims, calling some issues minor paperwork errors and disputing the methodology used to identify mold in their samples. The CEO hinted the lab may take legal action if it's not allowed to reopen, saying if we cannot come to an agreement that salvages the business we have built over the last 8 years, we'll be forced to resort to the court system. The suspension is the latest in a broader crackdown by California regulators amid growing concerns over inflated THC levels, safety violations, and testing inconsistencies in the state's cannabis industry. The Department of Cannabis Control declined to comment further on the case. So normally I would throw my opinion in first. I'm going to get Nate's opinion first, and then we'll circle back.
All right.
So this has been a bit of a ride. Thank you guys for your concern and for giving me a voice here and all of that fun stuff. The short version is there is no health and safety concern. And the short list of allegations they've thrown at us is somewhere between nonsense and very fixable. And even the ones I would consider to be nonsense, of course we would work with everybody. Of course, anything that they do or that they say we would do. That's really honestly how our lab has gotten here so far, is by being essentially the good kid on the playground, right? And we wouldn't want to stop acting in that same fashion. But, from our perspective, it seems like clarification would have been needed if there was something that needed to be fixed. And also from our perspective, there was a lack of communication on things in terms of how we could have fixed them or how we could move forward. Literally, many of the allegations are from last year. We fixed them instantly. We reported their fixing, and somehow we're still here. And it's a mix of that and things that we've even been told that literally every company uses. One of the things we've had a chance to have the opportunity to answer was one person logging onto another person's metric account on a shared office computer. So it's gotten a little abstract in terms of what we would have considered to be a traditional sense of following the rules. Again, our position would be, of course, we're happy to follow the rules. Just please clarify what we need. So far, we've been on radio blackout from the DCC with very, very few exceptions that would be considered non-helpful in getting our license back. And in this same sense, we're getting to the point where, unfortunately, we need to explore other options. And that's happening in real time as it goes right now.
So this is a pretty lengthy process. Usually I've gone through it with other operators, going through it with an operator right now. When did you guys initially first have contact with the DCC and they first started investigating?
1 week ago this morning. So we're 7 days in almost perfectly at this moment.
That's pretty quickly for them to go ahead and issue a position.
They haven't really responded other than sending us that letter 1 week ago on April 10th.
Wow.
And,
okay.
and I watched some of the videos that you've released on your own channel, Nate, in regards with covering this, just to familiarize myself more with the ongoing saga. And correct me if I'm wrong, and Dale, I really want to hear your input on this. But you guys are saying that the DCC doesn't have the right to revoke a license unless for a matter of public safety or public safety health risk is at play in relation to this. And all of these allegations don't lead to any of that.
That is correct. It's hard to suggest what else might be at play, because certainly just answering a yes, because it is really that simple, does leave a lot of other guesswork in terms of what else is going on in the story. And like I said, there are things developing right now. We have a couple of news outlets who seem very interested in interviewing and making certain conclusions. So I'm eagerly anticipating how this all plays out. The short version is that it's been really, really important to me, my wife, our whole crew, the CEO, his whole family, that everything gets out and everybody sees this process. And, we don't want anybody to be in pain. Unfortunately, the DCC has taken things a little bit past that. But we want to share and make this a community understanding. We want everybody to see this. There's no reason for us to hide in the shadows. Hence, we want to be as open with this as possible. Salud.
Interesting.
Well, my take is that the DCC lacks credible due process. That's something we've seen across the board. If you had a provisional license, you were just fucked. You couldn't do anything. If you actually have a permanent license, you do have some standing to go appeal this. Then the next step up is, where's all the standards that you're supposed to apply in a testing lab? They give you very, very vague level of standards, okay? There are no industry standards for calibrating your machinery. And these are some complaints I've heard from testing labs going way back, is that if you don't have a accredited standard to calibrate your equipment, you're going to get varying results out of them, okay? If you don't have standardized protocols for doing testings, and you're subject to some criticism, but that's not really scientific. The state has not been going forward with setting scientific standards here. and then letting people know. And then if you are in violation, I don't think the first thing they should do is just suspend your license. I think that's an overreach, to give you a warning. Hey, we've got some complaints here. We've got some issues. Let's give you a chance to fix this before we go into the suspension mode. Then you've got to go to court and actually to appeals process and try to fix this. There's ways you can do this. I mean, obviously, if you're having product that's getting passed with heavy metals and things like that, those are going to be there all along. Aspergillus and other things could be storage and transportation problems. This is mold. And if you don't store this stuff properly, you may test it one day and a week later it's got mold in it. These are just some of the issues I see that I don't think you should just step in and suspend. You should give people a chance to come in and sit down and correct this.
Yep.
And then move forward. Maybe, watch them for a while, make sure that they test and follow up to make sure they're following protocols. The state has just been very vague. And for the longest time, they didn't do shit. They would say, oh, let's talk about it. And I've had some interactions where you got a warning and then you had an inspector come out and you got to deal with it. But the draconian nature of this really needs better due process. And I think that's one of the complaints I have about the DCC in general.
If you have a chance, Dale, to check out the video we just released last night, we actually did have a chance. We had leaked to a friend, excuse me, slow down, to us, a friend leaked who has worked with the DCC, has leaked information with their SOP, and it indicated a couple of things. And just to throw out those couple of things, the biggest of which is that they use a thermo kit, as we would call in the analytics industry. They use a thermo kit for their micro testing. The odd non-apples to apples nature of that is that there's not one lab in the state who utilizes a thermo kit. They're utilizing technology to study micro that nobody else does. On top of that, because it's something that's not sold not just to the California market, but to any cannabis market, we can also draw very, very logically that no other product out there, no other kit for testing micro has that little field experience. And this is what the state is utilizing to make these judgments. So even there, from the micro test standpoint, from the point of view in testing aspergillus, it's not apples to apples. It's not the same thing. And this goes back to requests that we made to them last August, asking them how they do these things, asking for clarification, literally radio silence in that sense until this 1 week ago.
It's just too dramatic, overkill. There are better ways to handle this if you really want to clean stuff up and get uniformity. Just work with the testing labs and figure out, okay, how are you testing at the lab level? And then at the state level, make sure you're using uniform testing standards to make sure that you're all on the same page, as you're saying, apples to apples. I'm not seeing that. And that's just one of the problems of the industry, because this is basically a due process problem. Notice and an opportunity to be heard. Notice is, hey, this is our issue with you. Is there something we can do to fix this? And just going in and suspending and basically tanking a business is not a way to fix this. I mean, if you were putting
Beautifully said, man. Beautifully said. I wish... Yeah, I hope everybody sees that with the same clarity you do, Dale. I'm so sorry for interrupting, but thank you. I have yet to hear it put from an outsider's point so eloquently what we're dealing with.
Yeah, I think due process is definitely an issue when you're looking at how these investigations go, and they come in, they red tape everything, and then they try to work backwards and figure out if they're correct or not. To their point, though, if they're actually detecting aspergillus in the samples, right? Is there possibly then a better method? And is it more about comparing apples to apples, or saying, hey, this is the opportunity to come in and tell operators, we get the way that you're testing, here's, almost like a fix-it ticket, here's how you should be doing it. It's time to upgrade some equipment. It's time to upgrade some methodology, because at the end of the day, it is public safety. We don't want people smoking contaminated samples, right? And so it could just be, it's not necessarily the intent to, pass something through, but it could be possibly that, hey, we've now realized that, we learn stuff in this industry every day. We've now learned that this is a better method to detect in these samples.
It's all of the above. If you think about it, it's really about a standard. And you're absolutely right when it comes down to having a measurable, comparable standard that's available to both sides of the equation. So you're absolutely right. It's all of the above. And if I can sum it up in that, that's essentially what it comes down to. The next part of it is really understanding something like a common mold like Aspergillus. It literally occurs worldwide. That room that you're in right now, it's in there with you. Am I testing that cubic inch that happens to have a live spore in it, or am I not? Now, are you going to breathe that in a few minutes from now? And as ridiculous as that sounds, consider the following. The lab takes 1/3 of 1% of the batch, 0.35%, 99.65 isn't sampled. That is potentially months, and in this case, for what we've been cited for, literal months prior to everything being pulled and then sampled and tested and reported. Anything can happen. Live spores in that 1 cubic inch in this comparison that weren't sampled could absolutely have it in there. One bite of food that you took in your last meal had it in it. The next bite didn't. This is the nature of Aspergillus. This is how that product works. And so a greater level of understanding. And if there's a level of us saying, like collectively, holy shit, like we should be testing more of the batch, that's amazing to know, but that needs to be communicated to the entire industry at once for the sake of best practices, right? So we all understand what's going on. Or on the flip side, we compare this to something like cantaloupes, and they say, well, out of this whole massive warehouse that you can't see the other size of, we're going to test one random pallet. And you're like, holy crap, anything could happen. Well, that's the standard. And so standards being communicated, understood, figured out by committees of people who are more liable and who are much more educated collectively than any of us is really the answer here, not fly-by-night decisions based on standards that aren't shared across industries. Sorry for laughing. Almost part of it nervously, part of it out of hilarity, because what's the lack of logic that I'm spitting out here? And this is literally what we're up against. And that's why I say this is a community thing, not a one licensee thing right here.
No, absolutely. And there's definitely, I mean, and this is to the entire industry, not just the California industry. Just because someone else is doing it wrong doesn't mean that you can. I mean, we all know like the metric thing is a simple, like that it's a very, very easy way for them to see inside your facility without seeing inside of it. And the reason why we all have to have sign-ons for everyone that has access is so that I can say, hey, Rico is the one who fucked this up. Or, whatever. There's got to be some accountability there. And I know that we get lax as operators because things are busy. It's like, hey, can you throw this in there for me? But you guys, we have to do a better job of actually following these things that we know. Like, just because the guy up the street is doing it doesn't mean that you should. If Billy jumps off the bridge, you probably should not do the same. And it's really frustrating to watch very simple things become very large, inflated situations. But there's a reason why the track and trace system exists, and the integrity of it, and it actually works against you in these situations because it makes it harder for you to go back and establish those chains of custody. It makes it harder for you as an operator to go back and say, well, actually, here's the origin for those plants, because maybe you didn't enter them, and you're making them question more of the integrity of the data that you provided because you're not providing it in the way that it was supposed to have been done. So that's just kind of my word of advice for everyone. Don't share your fucking metric login. You wouldn't give somebody your bank login. Don't give them your metric login, because at the end of the day, as an operator, you're held accountable for everything that's entered into that system on your behalf. So you guys, we have to be careful. We have to be more careful with our record keeping. We have to be more careful with the simple things that are easy for them to come in and say, oh, absolutely not.
I want everybody to understand that with what's happening to us and that level of silliness, like that, they might ultimately try to show who's using whose credentials on your office computer for logging into Metric to receive a manifest. Something as silly as that is going to be potentially what gets thrown against you. And that's why I'm trying to publicize this, is because this ultimately becomes an us problem. This isn't something that we could have ever possibly seen coming, and basic corrective action is clearly all that's what would have been required. And again, just to point out a little bit of history, when this was brought up to us, this particular action last October, we did issue a corrective action. That particular metric login switcheroo, apparently, that was corrected same day as they brought it up to us. Obviously, that's something easy to correct. The fact that that was seen as a long-term citation that fell into the public health and safety scope is that's what makes us nervous. Like our license renewal is coming up in just under 2 weeks, I think we're at. So why did the state wait this long to do this? Why did they wait? And everybody I think is putting together their own version of these reasons. I don't want to lead to anything, but why did the state wait to drop the hammer 3 weeks essentially? We're 1 week deep, so now 2 weeks away from our license renewal. Why did they do this to us? What do they think they are to mess with 75 people's lives like this, and to hurt these people for ultimately fixable reasons that pose no health and safety concern? And the frustration and fixability and levels of what is ultimately being done to people who only were trying their very, very best and who would have been happy to continue to try their best is what really hurts here. And I mean, I don't want to lead any horses to proverbial water, but if you guys are seeing what I'm seeing, I mean, man, it's pure unnecessary pain. And that's, again, why we're sharing our story.
On the staffing issues, are there, that could be as simple as somebody lied on their job application. You know what I mean? So like when, if there's a requirement, you have to like double check. Just because I tell you that I have a doctorate from Harvard, you might want to actually see some documentation of that.
If I may, the people who I think it was less than half a dozen names of people who they provided. I want to say all but one they assigned to working in positions that they didn't actually have. And that's why they suggested that people were working in roles that they didn't have the proper level of education.
Wow.
We did do our background. We did follow our ISO. We did take those necessary steps. And this ended up being part of a citation, which ended up ultimately being non-responsive from the DCC in terms of our polite what the F's, and this is why, again, we're pointing out this level of exposure. I think the one exception was with a sampler, and it was somebody who we've known as a company for years and years. And apparently samplers, if you want to look it up, have very, very, very moderate bars for education they need to have. And that's one where we didn't look up. But again, so fixable. Literally one phone call or email would have corrected that action. And it was for a sampler. It wasn't somebody in a science role whatsoever. And in our scope, we might not have ever checked. But I mean, thank goodness they pointed this out to us. It's so fixable. But why and how? And now this is, unfortunately clogging, all of my thoughts in terms of how this has gone about.
Yeah, it's tough.
Let me just say that this is ham-fisted, okay? Because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. And you have more rights as an accused drunk driver than what they're affording you guys. I mean, you could have been notified and you could have, paid some, violation and then corrected it and moved on and maybe on probation for a while. There's a lot of things that could have happened here besides the ham-fisted approach of just smacking you and taking this entire business down. Because what I've seen in the industry is they'll take an approach like this that's in hindsight stupid, and then you spend $75,000 to $100,000, if not more, on attorney's fees trying to fix this problem. And it could have been fixed by working with the DCC and maybe paying a fine. Okay, if you did something, okay, we'll pay a fine here and give us a chance to correct it, and then maybe watch us for a minute. That's a better approach to keeping a business viable and just come in and blow the whole damn thing up. I don't agree with that. And due process is a problem. I mean, my former partner, James Anthony, is fighting them on due process every place we look because they don't think they have to give you due process.
Yep.
They just do what they want to do.
I totally agree with you, Dale.
They're very clear what their objective is, and their objective is not to give you a clean bill of health, right? And this is what we see happening time and time again. It's like, they pile up as many things as they could pile up and throw at you to make this a larger situation. And so I think, I hope you guys get through it.
Who else does that?
The best of luck, but this is you guys as operators, like, don't become a fucking cautionary tale. Like it's you have to do everything you can. And if you're doing everything you can, you have to keep those records. So like they're having to do now is go back and say, hey, but here's the actual employee data. Here's the actual, positions of these people. Here's the actual records where we have done all of our background checks. We've done all of this. Here's our logins. Here's our whatever. Here's our camera system. Here's, our sampling procedure.
Sorry to interrupt, but it's called an investigation, right? I mean, I'm not, overruling what you're saying. Like, you're absolutely right, but they're supposed to run an investigation on this, not make a hack job list of reasons and then rush to email us something like it's, the DMV reporting you that your license is on suspension. Like, it's not. Like, these aren't the same thing. It's not the same level of effect on a whole industry in this case. And I mean, at this point, they're actually restricting people from being able to resubmit batches, from what I'm hearing. And so, like, the level of those who are supposed to be protecting us, or at the very least helping us make money for them, right, are just absolutely ishing the bed on how they're handling this and how it could be handled, and taking steps to correct what was clearly a hack job of an action. And, we're all left looking at what's next. And, we're obviously taking matters, and again, in real time into our own hands.
I think ultimately, Nate. I think ultimately
the DCC could make this all go away. What's up, Jason? Sorry.
I think ultimately, Nate. I think you guys have some type of lawsuit on your hands against the DCC for their actions based off of everything that I'm hearing and witnessing and seeing in regards to, especially with how the procedures are in place for how the DCC procedures are to be able to revoke a testing lab's license. I think the state of California and the DCC are going to end up having to pay you guys some money if you guys pursue legal actions. But that's just my personal opinion, and I think Dale would agree with me ultimately on that, just because of the fact that the due process has been removed in regards with this whole procedure.
Yeah. Well, part of the investigation is you're supposed to be able to have the operator to be a part of said investigation against them. Like, you're supposed to be working with the operator, and the DCC doesn't do that. What they do is they come in with their minds made up, and they try to find every freaking paper that they need to prove what they think is happening. And that's not how it works. That's guilty until proven innocent, not the other way around. And that's how these investigations, unfortunately, go most of the time. It would be much better served if we're truly trying to regulate a market, if we're truly trying to provide consumer safe products, work with the operator and go through these things. Nate should have been able to sit there with them the entire time and go through these pieces that they're trying to put together to put this pie of bullshit against you. I mean, there should have been operator involvement in the investigation, and that involves clarity and transparency on the side of the DCC, as this is what we're looking at. Here's why we're saying this. I've been very lucky that every facility that I've consulted for when I'm trying to get something unread tagged or whatever, I get a lot of really good responsivity between myself and the DCC. That's not always the case. That's often not the case. And so it's just really frustrating when you have somebody attacking your entire livelihood and your whole business, and they're not giving you any clarity into why. That's like coming and putting you in handcuffs, and you're like, wait, am I being arrested for something? And they just throw you in the back of the car and don't tell you shit.
Yep.
Well said.
I agree with all that. Stone, you have any final comments you'd like to throw in on this before we move to our final story?
No, I got nothing else.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Dale, you have any final comments you want to throw in this before we move on?
Well, I can just say that, yeah, there might be grounds for a lawsuit and damages. At that point, your business has been blown up, and that's not a good way to go. We don't have enough testing labs in the state. They need to not only work with the business owners here, but they need to put out for everybody that's a testing lab, what are we finding? What are the standards we want to see so that we can learn from this? I mean, that's supposed to be part of the process. They didn't give enough information to have operators know exactly what they need to do. So if they find, hey, we don't like what you're doing, fine. Let's sit down and talk about this, but let's release to the all the testing labs out there what it is we're finding and what we're recommending to try and resolve these things before you take the ham fist and just destroy a business.
Dale, may I?
Hold on, let me Dale finish.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, finish, Dale. Okay.
Good.
Sorry to interrupt, my friend. One thing, and it was just jumping from mine that I didn't want to forget, was there have recently been labs that have seen recalls up to 100 different batches for failure to test residual solvents going into the industry. Like, that is a massive health and safety concern. And that lab that literally just stumbled is still in business and no semblance of restriction. Sorry, but it was just such a point that sprung from what you were saying right there, boss, that I just had to absolutely jump in with that too and give you that little tidbit, because it is so ridiculous when you run that comparison and say, okay, well, you know, what is the bar? You know, what does it look like? And the bar is nowhere near here. You know, literally, I want to say upwards of or about 100 batches, and without residual solvent tests, you know, potential benzene, and that could have gotten into people's lungs and brain, and there would have been nothing to restrict from that. And then we're seeing metric loggings, questionable aspergillus methods, and you know, assumptions of who's working in what role. It really just, it doesn't make sense. And I don't want to call necessarily for a level of public outcry, but you know, internally and with people close to us, that's, as I understand, that's been part of the response, is people just aren't taking it lying down. And it sucks from so many different angles. I apologize for hijacking things, guys.
Based off of that, you know, just gives me the thought process of, I wonder if there's someone that's in the DCC that has some type of vendetta against you guys for some type of reason. And I think that brings up a whole other host of legal issues that ultimately would come out in play ultimately. But nonetheless, that those are all hypotheticals, and you know what I'm saying. It's just a thought that popped in my mind, but it's definitely is not out of the realm of possibilities. But we're going to roll into our final story of the day today, you guys. We are a little bit over time, and man, we were
wobbling like he never left. Back on the mic, Jason Beck.
Thank you so much, Jenny Beth. And man, let me tell you something. I wish Rico was still here, because he would be triggered by this story, you guys, today. And I can't wait to hear what Dale has to say in regards with this, because Minneapolis bans the use of THC cannabis products in city parks, but they will not issue fines, you guys. That's right. The use of THC in cannabis products is now banned in Minneapolis parks. The Minneapolis City Council approved the policy on Wednesday night, but stopped short of making it a criminal offense, you guys. And that's the big question that sparked a bit of debate at times during Wednesday night's park board meeting. Smoking and vaping is already banned on parkland, so commissioners agreed to clarify that the policy now extends to cannabis. What they didn't agree on is what happens if an individual is caught breaking the rules. Part of the debate was whether to make the policy on ordinance tied to a petty misdemeanor in which any individual violating it could be punished with a ticket or a fine. And supporters say the consequences would help keep kids safe and make sure more people complied with the policy. Others were concerned for people of color and immigrants given the current crackdown on illegal immigration. In a quote, they say, "This could be contributing to your point system that gets you deported to a prison camp in El Salvador. This is not inconsequential stuff," said Minneapolis Parks Board Commissioner Tom Holson. And in an additional quote, they say, "Someone could drop one of them and kids could pick it up. Next thing you know, we're at the park for a drug overdose on a kid," said Commissioner Charles Rucker, who is also a Minneapolis fighter. Enforcement of the new policy relies on park staff, including police, to tell park goers and warn violators to leave the park, you guys. Well, I think there was a whole bunch of little gaslighting in there, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. Minneapolis parks.
You think it's gaslighting, Jason?
Yep.
All right. Well, we're going to have to, once again, I'll sit down with you and we'll go over what gaslighting means one day, and so we can get a better understanding and grasp of that word. But, you know, as a mother, I don't want my kid playing football at the park and somebody just openly just blowing.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
I think that's it. Well, good. Let me finish, and then you can agree with me further, okay? I do appreciate that they're addressing it, because it should be something that's addressed. Kids should be able to go outside and play safely. Parks are, you know, not the place to do this, right? You know, and usually it's those little asshole high schoolers that are over there smoking a joint in the corner under the tree. But That being said, I don't want any drugs being done in a park around my child. I do appreciate the fact that they stopped short of criminalizing this, because I think that, making this a criminal matter and putting people in a position where you're going to harm the rest of their future because they smoked a joint in a park is also not what we're looking to do. But I think that this is actually fairly reasonable. I think the way that they're addressing this is like, hey, we shouldn't have to tell you this, but jackass, don't blow blunts in the park. So I think that, that they didn't do something crazy, which would have been, think of the children, but also think of the children who goes and plays in parks, families with their kids flying kites, playing on the jungle bars, whatever they got now, their little soft cushy toys that our shit before would like burn your ass down the slide and probably kill you on the merry-go-round thing. But, it's something that shouldn't have to be discussed. We as adults should be able to reasonably look around and say, hey, there's, you can look around and see 150 kids. You're not spewing F-bomb after F-bomb after F-bomb. It should be just that reasonable. Look around, consider your environment. Is this the place where I should probably do this or not? When we have people who are fully reasonable adults who can't look around and do those things, then we have to have rules like this put into place, because it's like, hey, dumbass, don't do that here.
Oh, but the statement that some kid might pick up a roach and be unconscious or something.
Yeah,
like,
that to me was gaslighting. Yeah, exactly. That part was gaslighting. And the part when they were saying that illegal immigrants are going to get caught up or get points tacked onto whatever for that's total bullshit too.
Well, down, Jason.
Yeah, that was the part of the gaslighting that I was referring to, Jenny Beth.
That would be more. That's more fear mongering than gaslighting.
It's all the same thing to me, Jenny Beth.
Well, we're going to go over the meaning of gaslighting when I see you later, bud.
Well, I mean, you've been supposed to show up here for the last 48 hours, and you've yet to show up, so I have zero faith in you showing up.
I did have the DCC show up unannounced for a little visit with one of my main clients. So I've been
Excuses.
Sorry, I was up till 12:30 last night on the phone with clients. So,
You have any thoughts on this, Nate? You know what I'm saying? Smoking in parks, you know what I mean? I mean, it is open airways.
No, I hear that. And, I might have even been guilty of the same thing 200 or 300 times, in the last year or so. So, that's, I can understand, the perspective of, wanting to smoke open air, a little bit of nature around, and generally good vibes that you don't mind also experiencing through the context of being a little high. All of it seems to make a pretty good bit of logical sense. I would have normally just stopped the point there, but from hearing the initial point made then on the topic, I got to go a step further and agree. Unfortunately, the whole rules written in blood thing means that people took this to extremes where they scared the white man, and they, then made some complaints, and now we're dealing with the fallout of this kind of thing. So on one hand, sure, this seems like a perfectly harmless practice to me. On the other hand, there's, people took it too far, and there wouldn't have been rules then made about it had it not been taken too far. So I think I got to take I think I learned something listening here, and I got to take that modified position.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. Thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us, but not in the park, every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Aim High Hemp Distribution and Catalyst for helping us keep the lights on over here. And thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. Thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day. And thank you to Cloud Media Partners Anthony in the metaverse somewhere. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show. And we're off, you guys.